So this weekend, World War III is having a free weekend, and it's actually breathed some new life into the game, which has been almost dead for the last few months. So the question is it enough to keep the game alive now, and is it worth buying in 2019? Well, guys, this is Billyeatworld again, and let's find out. Alright, so to kick off, before we try and answer that question, let's put the game in a vacuum and talk about what it is and what it actually does right. And pretty clearly, I think you can see from the gameplay on screen now, it's trying to be like a Battlefield game, so much so that when it first came out, people were actually calling it a clone of Battlefield 4. But interestingly enough, I've actually found it's pretty different. It's a lot less forgiving than Battlefield 4, and a lot of the game's mechanics are a lot deeper as well, which I think says a lot because you could do a lot more in BF4 than you could in any Battlefield game since then, and World War III is even more complex than that again. Not just that, but I'd say that World War III just flat out does a lot of things better than Battlefield has ever done. Like, for example, there's little things like having the compass at the top of the screen, or the fact that you can only spawn on your squad leader. These are all things that I've been suggesting to DICE for literally years now. There's a lot more other little things like that as well, but at the end of the day, it's the whole package that you've got to judge. And, well, as much as it tries to be like a Battlefield game, it just isn't. At the end of the day, it is only an indie game, and look, don't get me wrong, it's a fun one. It's just always going to be a bit more clunkier and a bit more unstable than any AAA shooter. Now, the reason I mentioned that first, and the reason I said let's put it in a vacuum, is I wanted to make it clear that it is a decent game, and on that point alone, well, I think it is worth buying. But here's the catch. The reason I'm only just doing my first review video of this game now is because I actually haven't had much of a chance to play it since it launched way back at the end of last year. The game initially launched to some respectable numbers for an indie FPS game, but in the month of May 2019, the player base had shrunk to less than a peak of 200. And look, even this weekend in Australia, it's been kind of hard to get into servers. The game is up to a peak of more than 2,000 now, but that still only translates into 1 or 2 servers in Oceania. So, what's the deal? What caused this game to fall to this point? And well, if you look at the Steam reviews, well, you can see it's a lot of the same problems that plague Battlefield games at launch as well. The game still freezes and crashes from time to time, there's networking issues, player visibility isn't that great, and there's some balancing issues as well. But the main difference between World War III and a Battlefield game, though, is that DICE is a lot bigger than the Farm 51, and they're much better equipped to deal with these kinds of issues faster. And I think probably its biggest issue is that because it is so close to a game like Battlefield 4, which is very polished at this point in time, a lot of people were left wondering after these issues, why don't I just go back and play that one instead? So, with all of that being said, getting back to the main question of this video, is it worth playing in 2019? And look, I'd have to say, it actually probably is. Firstly, you can pick it up pretty cheap. For example, right now, it's actually on sale on Steam at 40% off, so only 24 Australian dollar dues, which is a lot cheaper than any other AAA shooter. And sure, I've got to admit, the free weekend this weekend is the reason the player base is looking healthy at the moment, but I reckon it's probably enough to kickstart it again for at least another few months. And even after that, well, the best thing about this game is that playing out of region on 150 plus ping doesn't even really feel that bad. In fact, last night I was region hopping quite a bit. The big question though, and this is the one that can't be solved by a cheaper price or more players, is it different enough from Battlefield 4 to even bother? And look, once again, I'd say it probably is. A lot of the launch issues I mentioned before are much better now, and like I said, it's definitely a different and more unforgiving core gameplay experience. Also, I've got to mention the customization and the ability system is really, really deep, which adds a lot to the replayability, which is something that we haven't seen in a Battlefield game for years. And so, in a nutshell, just to sum everything up, you might not get 1,000 hours out of this one, but will you get 24 bucks worth? Well, I think the answer is probably yes. But anyway, guys, that just about wraps up this quick review. So as always, make sure you let me know what you think of World War III in the comment section below. And let me know if you think this is something you'd play over Battlefield 4. Do you think it's worth the time? Or would you just rather go back and play some old Battlefield games instead? As always, though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and please feel free to check out the links in the description if you want to see any more of these videos. And also, don't forget you can find my Twitter and Discord links down there as well if you want to keep in touch. And as always, until next time, see you later, and have a good one.